This is an interview about the techniques on how to catch speckled trout. When do you use live bait?
Well, I like to use live bait whenever it's available. It's not always available, but when it is, it's generally the best fish attractor.
When do you use artificial bait?
Well, when live bait's not available, we have to use artificial, or when the fishing is so good that artificial is just as good as live bait.
What conditions do you use both of them in?
Well, generally, to fish for speckled trout, the water doesn't need to be clear, but the winds need to be somewhat reasonable. They can't be blowing probably more than 10 miles an hour. And the tide, you usually want the tide to be running, either coming in or going out. And either artificial or speckled trout would work well in those conditions.
Do you catch more with live or artificial bait?
Well, it depends. I would say most of the time you're going to catch more with live bait, but sometimes if you really have a good artificial bait and you really know how to work it and conditions are right, you could probably do just as well.
What are the setups for live bait and for artificial bait?
I'm not sure I understand the question when you say setups.
What are the rigs, or how do we
tie the live bait or the artificial on? Well, you can fish with a cork with live bait in a leader, and that allows the bait to swim above the bottom, kind of float above the bottom. A leader allows you to have thicker line closer to the hook, so if the teeth of the fish were to hit the line, it's thicker and it won't snap. Most of the time with artificial, it's considered you can tie it straight to the line, and you do not need a leader. A lot of people use braided line, which is really strong line that is not very large in diameter.
What are the different types of live bait and artificial bait?
So in the live bait category, you have mullet, you have croaker, you have shrimp, you have cockahoe minnows. In the artificial category, it's unlimited. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of artificial lures that you could use for speckled trout.
Does it differ in each season when you use live bait versus artificial bait?
Yeah, it does. Fall fishing is different from summer fishing in subtle ways, not significant, but sometimes an artificial bait that would do well in summer doesn't do well in the fall, and vice versa.
Do you cast the same, or is the techniques to reel in the same with artificial versus live bait?
No, very different. So with live bait, you generally cast and you leave it. You play with it and reel it in very intermittently, but sometimes you just leave it. With artificial, the idea is you want the artificial bait to act like it's alive, so it constantly is moving. So retrieving an artificial lure is real important, and how you retrieve it is real important, but it's constantly moving.
Where do you usually find speckled trout?
Speckled trout are all along the Gulf Coast of the U.S. and up along the East Coast to some degree, but probably the greatest concentration of speckled trout is along the coast and the marshes of South Louisiana. But Texas has a good population of trout, some big trout, and pretty much anywhere along the Gulf Coast, though.
Do you usually fish from a boat, or do you usually go wading?
Well, it depends where to wade fish, you need to have a hard bottom that is a consistent depth. So as you wade, you don't get deeper and deeper and deeper, or else you can't wade too far. So it's called fishing in the flats, and that's popular along the Texas coast where they have big flats. But most of the time, you'll find speckled trout fishermen fishing from boats, and they could be in anywhere from 2 feet of water to 20 feet of water in bays and marshes, and boats allow you to get to places where you really can't do it by fishing from the bank or wade fishing.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, no problem. Done?